The Young and the Restless Spoilers shock. The Abbott family, long known for their strength and unity, were about to face one of the most challenging revelations they had ever encountered. As the drama unfolded, Diane Jenkins Abbott found herself at a crossroads that would forever alter the course of her life and the lives of those she held closest to her. The secret she had kept hidden for so long was finally on the verge of being exposed, and the consequences of its revelation threatened to destroy the fragile family bonds she had worked so hard to rebuild. Diane had always feared the moment when Jack and Kyle would finally take the DNA test. For years, she had lived with the weight of the lie that had defined her relationship with Jack, the lie that had allowed her to present Kyle as Jack's biological son. Jack had always been convinced that Kyle was his flesh and blood, and anyone who dared to question that truth would incur his wrath. Jack's belief in his fatherly connection to Kyle had been unwavering, his emotions tied so deeply to the idea that Kyle was his son. He had cherished that bond, nurtured it, and defended it against all who dared to challenge it. Diane had seen how fiercely Jack protected Kyle, and she knew that if the truth ever came to light, it would destroy him. But deep inside, Diane knew the time was coming, there would be no avoiding the truth forever. The constant fear of Jack and Kyle eventually taking a DNA test haunted her, and with each passing day, the weight of her deception grew heavier. The love she had for Jack, for the family they had built together, made her question her actions, her past decisions, and the lies she had told to protect them. The guilt had been consuming, and the time to face the truth had finally arrived. Diane's heart pounded in her chest as she stood there, clutching the DNA results in her hand. She had made up her mind. She couldn't keep running from the truth anymore. She had to be honest with Jack. She had to tell him what had really happened, no matter the consequences. Taking a deep breath, she made her way to Jack's office, knowing that the moment she stepped through the door, there would be no going back. As she entered the room, Jack looked up from his desk, his expression one of cautious curiosity. He had always sensed something was off, but he never pushed her, he trusted her, loved her, and that was enough for him. Diane, her voice shaking, spoke the words she had been rehearsing for so long. Jack, I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I've kept a secret from you, and it's time you knew the truth. Her words hung in the air, the tension palpable. Jack's eyes narrowed, his protective instinct flaring up, but Diane pressed on. I was wrong to lie to you, Jack. I thought that by keeping this from you, I was protecting you, and protecting Kyle, but I was wrong. Kyle, he's not your son. Jack's face fell as Diane continued, her voice trembling, barely able to hold back the tears. I don't know whose son he is, Jack. I've never been able to figure it out. But I swear to you, I never meant for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. Diane's tears flowed freely now, the weight of her confession crushing her. She had never felt so vulnerable, so exposed. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to show the raw emotion that had been hidden beneath the walls she had built around herself. Jack sat in stunned silence, his face a mixture of disbelief and heartbreak. But then, to Diane's surprise, he spoke in a voice that was calm, almost eerily so. I knew, Jack said softly, looking at her with a steady gaze. I've known for a while now. Diane's eyes widened, the shock of his words hitting her like a wave. You knew, she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. Jack nodded slowly. I've known for years, Diane. I never wanted to believe it, but I could see the signs. I never pushed for the test because I didn't want Kyle to know. I didn't want him to feel like he didn't belong, like he wasn't part of this family. But I knew. Diane's breath caught in her throat, her chest tightening. But why didn't you tell me, Jack? Why didn't you confront me? You had every right to. Jack raised his hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Because I loved him like he was my own. I didn't care about the blood. He was my son in every way that mattered. I still believe he is. I'll raise him as my own, and when the time comes, I'll give him the inheritance, the future, everything he deserves. Diane's heart ached as she listened to Jack's words. She had expected anger, resentment, something that could shatter the fragile ties between them. But Jack's response was different. He wasn't angry, he was calm, almost resigned. He had accepted the truth in his own way, and now, in a way that Diane hadn't anticipated, he was giving her the forgiveness she hadn't dared hope for. "I'm sorry, Jack," Diane whispered, tears flowing freely now. "I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was protecting us, but I only created a web of lies." Jack stood and walked over to Diane, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "I know you were trying to protect us, Diane. But now we have to deal with the consequences. We'll face it together, Kyle and I, and the rest of the family. But you have to know this, he's my son. No matter what the tests say. And that's never going to change." Diane looked up at Jack, her heart swelling with a mixture of guilt and gratitude. She had expected judgment, but instead, she found understanding, a rare gift from the man she had loved, even through all the mistakes. She had feared this moment for so long, but now, in this unexpected moment of truth, Diane realized that their bond was stronger than any secret, stronger than any lie. "Thank you," Diane whispered, her voice breaking. "Thank you for forgiving me." Jack squeezed her shoulder gently. "We'll move forward, Diane. But we do it together. That's what families do." As the weight of the confession lifted, Diane finally allowed herself to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, the future of the Abbott family wasn't beyond repair. There would be difficult days ahead, confronting Kyle with the truth, dealing with the fallout, but for the first time in a long time, Diane felt a glimmer of hope. The road ahead was uncertain, but with Jack by her side, she believed they could face whatever came next, together. The truth about Kyle's paternity hung over the Abbott family like a ticking time bomb. As the CEO of Jabot, Kyle was at the helm of the family business, steering it through turbulent waters while continuing the legacy his father, Jack Abbott, had worked so tirelessly to build. But if the truth about Kyle's parentage were to come out, that Kyle was not Jack's biological son, everything Kyle had worked for, everything Jack had worked for, could come crashing down. Jabot's leadership, built on Jack's vision and the Abbott family's bloodline, would be in jeopardy. And the very foundation of their family could be shattered in an instant. The thought of it was terrifying, and Jack knew that if anyone, especially someone like Victor, found out about the secret, it could destroy everything they had worked so hard to build. Diane, who had kept the secret buried for so long, understood the magnitude of the situation all too well. She could no longer deny the consequences of their past decisions, and now the truth threatened to expose everything. If Jack and Kyle were to lose their connection, if it were revealed that Kyle was not Jack's biological son, it would undermine Kyle's position in Jabot. The foundation of their family's legacy would be in danger, and Jack knew that he could not afford to let that happen. The stakes were incredibly high, and Diane and Jack found themselves at a crucial crossroads. They both knew that they had to keep this secret, especially from people like Victor, who had always been a master of manipulation. Victor was already a looming threat to the Abbott family, and if he were to learn of Kyle's true paternity, he could use that information to further his own agenda, creating chaos within Jabot and possibly causing a fracture within the Abbott family that could never be repaired. Jack's mind raced as he grappled with the weight of what had been done. He had lived for years with the belief that Kyle was his son, that the bond between them was unbreakable. But now, in the quiet moments of reflection, Jack realized that he had always suspected something wasn't quite right. There were subtle signs, clues in Kyle's behavior and in the way their relationship had unfolded, that had nagged at Jack for years. He had never confronted Diane about it because, deep down, he didn't want to face the possibility that Kyle wasn't his. But over time, Jack had put the pieces together, he had learned things that confirmed his suspicions. The truth had been staring him in the face all along, but Jack had refused to acknowledge it because he couldn't bear the idea of losing Kyle. The moment Jack realized the truth, he knew that his love for Kyle wasn't defined by blood. Kyle had become his son in every sense that mattered, through their shared experiences, their mutual respect, and the bond they had forged. But now, the fear of losing that bond, the fear of everything falling apart, had consumed Jack. He was terrified of the consequences that would follow if the secret came to light. For Jack, the Abbott family was everything. He had worked tirelessly to build it, to protect it. The thought of it all unraveling because of a single, painful truth was too much to bear. Diane, too, felt the weight of the situation. She had always feared this moment, feared that one day the secret would be exposed and destroy everything she had worked for. But now, with Jack standing before her, both of them aware of the fragile truth they shared, Diane understood that they were in this together. The question wasn't whether the secret would come out, but how they would protect it. They had to keep it hidden, for Kyle's sake, for Jack's sake, and for the sake of their family. They couldn't let anyone, especially Victor, find out. As Diane and Jack spoke in hushed tones, the reality of their situation set in. They needed to come to an agreement, to stand united in their decision. They would keep the secret buried, no matter what. They would continue to protect Kyle, even if it meant living with the guilt and the fear of what could happen if the truth were to be exposed. The idea of losing Kyle, of losing the family they had built, was unbearable. Jack knew that he had to protect Kyle's position as CEO of Jabot, even if it meant lying to everyone else. The thought of Victor, of how he would exploit the truth for his own gain, was too much to risk. Jack, Diane said, her voice trembling with emotion, we can't let this secret get out. If it does, everything we've worked for will be gone. I can't lose you, and I can't lose Kyle. We have to keep this between us. We have to protect him. Jack looked at her, his face grim but resolute. I know. I've always known, Diane. But I've never wanted to face it. Now that I know the truth, I can't let it destroy everything. I'll do whatever it takes to protect Kyle, to protect this family. Diane nodded, tears welling in her eyes. We'll keep it hidden. We have to. No one else can know. As the weight of their decision settled between them, Diane and Jack shared a moment of understanding. They both knew that they had chosen a path fraught with danger and uncertainty. But they also knew that they couldn't let anyone else tear their family apart. They had to keep the secret, no matter the cost. But the question remained, how long could they keep it hidden? In the world of Genoa City, secrets had a way of coming to light, no matter how carefully they were guarded. And with Victor always lurking in the shadows, the threat of exposure was ever present. Diane and Jack were walking a tightrope, and the stakes had never been higher. But for the sake of their family, they were willing to do whatever it took to protect the truth, and to ensure that Kyle remained the heir to the Abbott legacy, regardless of what his bloodline really said. As the days passed, the tension continued to build. Would Jack and Diane's secret hold, or would it eventually come crashing down around them, taking everything with it? Only time would tell, but for now, they had made their choice. And in that choice, they would do everything they could to protect the family they had worked so hard to create.